In this sixth and final essay of preemptive mirror framing, we're going to talk about resisting the narrative trap. Every manipulative system relies on one silent agreement that people will react instead of reflect. The genius and the danger of preemptive mirror framing lies in its ability to pull people into that reaction loop before they realize it's happening. To resist it, we must move from emotional reflex to conscious response, from being a character in someone else's story to being the narrator of our own. From awareness to agency. Awareness alone doesn't stop manipulation, but it's the only way resistance can begin. Once you recognize the pattern, accusation before action, projection disguised as protection, and emotional urgency used to short-circuit thought, you regain a moment of choice. That moment is where integrity lives. Ask yourself, who benefits from my immediate reaction? What emotion is this message trying to evoke? Am I being asked to think or to feel? Each question restores a sliver of agency, interrupting the manipulator's rhythm and returning control to your own reasoning. Second, the discipline of emotional regulation. Preemptive mirror framing thrives on chaos. It seeks to flood the nervous system with outrage, fear, or self-defense. Regaining composure isn't passive, it's a countermove. When you remain calm in the face of false accusation, you deny the manipulator their favorite weapon, your reactivity. Practical steps include pause before response, count to 10 or take a deep breath before replying, ground in evidence, ask for verifiable details rather than opinions, depersonalize, focus on the behavior, not the emotional bait. In communication theory, this is known as response latency control, slowing the pace of engagement to allow cognition to override impulse. Third, the courage to observe without absorbing. One of the most difficult parts of confronting manipulation is watching it unfold without becoming consumed by it. Observation without absorption means acknowledging deception without letting it define your emotional state. This requires psychological detachment, not indifference. You can see clearly without carrying the poison inward. It's the same discipline journalists, therapists, and negotiators practice when facing emotionally charged narratives. They listen, but they don't surrender their interpretive authority. Number 4, setting boundaries in conversation. Resisting the narrative trap also involves structural defense, setting conversational boundaries that prevent manipulation from gaining traction. Here are some language tools. I'm willing to discuss facts, not assumptions. Let's revisit this once evidence is available. If you're speaking hypothetically, please clarify that. Boundaries work because they shift communication from emotional space to cognitive space. They're not walls, they're filters for integrity. Next, building communities of verification. No one resists complex manipulation alone. To sustain truth in environments saturated with distortion, we need communities of verification, groups that prioritize critical thinking, transparency, and accountability over allegiance. In practice, this can look like small discussion circles where participants check sources collaboratively, workplaces that reward ethical dissent as much as consensus, friendships that can tolerate disagreement without fracture. Collective discernment creates what psychologists call distributed cognition, shared awareness that outpaces any single manipulator's influence. Next, restoring the role of dialogue. Preemptive mirror framing kills dialogue by replacing inquiry with accusation. The antidote is authentic conversation, where both sides agree to the conditions of respect and verification. In rhetorical ethics, this aligns with what Habermas called the ideal speech situation, a dialogue where participants seek mutual understanding rather than dominance. Reintroducing this ethos into our public and private conversations rebuilds the trust that manipulation erodes. 7. Rebuilding inner trust. Targets of manipulative framing often experience a crisis of self-trust. How did I not see it? Recovery begins not with self-blame, but with compassion. Deception works precisely because it hijacks good intentions, our empathy, our loyalty, our desire to be fair. Forgiving oneself is a crucial act of resistance. It reclaims the inner voice that manipulation tries to silence. Once you trust your own discernment again, external deceit loses its grip. Next, the long game, cultural immunity. At scale, resisting preemptive mirror framing becomes a form of cultural hygiene. The more people recognize it, name it, and refuse to reward it with attention, the weaker it becomes. Cultural immunity grows when truth tellers coordinate as effectively as deceivers. Media literacy, transparency in institutions, and ethical leadership training all contribute to this immunity. Ultimately, the goal is not to eliminate manipulation, it's to render it ineffective through collective discernment. Next, the return to integrity. The deepest resistance is not tactical, it's moral. Integrity means aligning word, action, and intention even when manipulation could serve you better in the moment. It's choosing clarity over cleverness and honesty over advantage. Each person who resists the lure of preemptive framing, who refuses to weaponize projection for self-protection, becomes part of the repair process. Truth, like trust, is rebuilt one choice at a time. In conclusion, beyond the mirror. Every mirror eventually cracks. When it does, what remains is the reflection we choose to live by, the quiet courage to speak accurately, listen deeply, and stand calmly in complexity. Preemptive mirror framing thrives on confusion, but awareness dissolves its illusion. To resist the narrative trap is to reclaim the right to see clearly, to think freely, and to communicate with conscience. That, in the end, is not just resistance, it's restoration.